Can you hear me out there? Brian, it's always good to hear you speak. It's always good to know and think back about what we collectively went through with the other individuals during the primary. A very long and at times grueling, but necessary primary. Made certainly me a better candidate, and it certainly prepared me for this moment. So thank you for pushing me. Thank you for your principled determination and for your continued commitment to right the ship here at home and of course all across the country. So thank you, man. Round of applause for my Mr. Flynn. Doreen Davis, I like all county chairs, I do. And I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I think you're my favorite. Your clear-eyed, thoughtful, unwavering, determined, principled outlook is so needed to restore some clarity within the Democratic Party, locally all the way up. Your discipline, just as a candidate, watching how you move and how you operate, I certainly appreciate what it takes in this complicated environment. And so just really want to acknowledge and thank you for all that you're doing on the ground, day in, day out, really on the front lines here for change. So thank you. Aiden and Pat and all the other local candidates who are running, who are stepping up in this moment of accountability. Let's go. Let's really continue to do the fight. You guys will be hearing from them, but as I've traveled with Pat and Aiden and seen them out there, I can speak from my own personal experience. I know how committed, how dedicated, how determined they are to make a difference here on the ground, day in and day out. So we are blessed and very fortunate to have such high caliber, thoughtful, smart people who decide to make the sacrifice and become public servants in a meaningful way. So thank you for all that you're doing. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's at stake here locally, at home, and all across the country. Today was a hard day for me as an American, and I imagine for you as well. We have reached a fever pitch of partisanship and a lack of decency to the point now where positions that are meant to be the bastions of neutrality and nonpartisanship become stages for displaying your partisanship, where your partisanship might actually be rewarded, despite the fact that the role that one might be pursuing is in fact meant to be neutral by design, impartial by design. That is what our founding fathers envisioned when they so geniusly crafted this concept of 3 equal branches of government. Putting aside what we had to endure today, we've had to endure with a broken Congress as well. A Congress that is not putting its country first, that is hiding behind partisanship at every step of the way, that is unwilling to work to solve complicated problems and deal with real issues that folks on the ground really want solutions for, whether it's healthcare, whether it's protecting our environment, funding our schools, real tax relief for working and middle class folks, making sure Medicare is properly funded, that Social Security actually is solvent. These are the things people want to talk about. These are the things people want to hear from their public servants. But unfortunately, we are living in a time where that is not being not only deprioritized, it is being overwhelmed, it appears, by distraction, by negativity, by a lack of civility, by personal attacks, by everything except substance. And there's a reason why people, I think, have checked out. It's because of this. We've reached so far a tipping point in our politics that our democracy no longer even looks like democracy, sounds like democracy, feels like democracy. It feels like something's been taken from us. I call it the will of the people, maybe. The will of working folks, the will of the middle class. Because despite the fact that the working poor are the fastest growing class in this country, and there's a shrinking middle class with stagnant wages for decades and staggering inequality, we get a Congress controlled by Republicans who think it's appropriate to take health care away from those who need it in order to enable a tax break to a wealthy few. We get a Republican-controlled Congress who believes it's appropriate to bankrupt our future with $1.5 trillion deficit for a cash grab to big business and a wealthy few at the expense of working middle-class folks, only throwing gasoline on the fire of inequality in this country, and they want to use that tax bill, turn around and say, we got to gut $1 trillion for SNAP. We got to gut $1.5 trillion for Medicaid. We got to gut $500 billion for Medicare. They don't want to privatize Medicare. They just voted for a budget resolution that proposes all of those cuts. And you know who voted for that too? Exactly. So let me be clear about the problem. Let's not act like it's just some abstract situation in DC that Mr. Fazio happens to be an innocent bystander. He just happens to be, this moderate guy who's being trounced upon by his party of zealots. Wrong. He is of it. He is part of the problem. So when we talk about change, we're not just talking about change for the country, which we all know is critical. We're talking about change right here at home. When we have a congressman who was the deciding vote, and don't you ever forget this, the deciding vote to take health care away, the deciding vote to roll back guaranteed protections. Let me repeat this, guaranteed protections for pre-existing conditions, the deciding vote to roll back Medicaid expansion, the deciding vote to defund Planned Parenthood after saying he would not do it, and after promising Andrea Mitchell, who pleaded with him in front of his home, don't take away my health care. I have a pre-existing condition, brain tumor, spinal condition. My little kids, I have 2 of them, one of whom has a pre-existing condition. Don't take away my health care. He promises her, I won't, 3 times, hugs her. She thinks they have a moment. He turns around and votes to take away her health care. Now that's deeper than just health care. That speaks to the larger culture of immorality and the lack of decency and cruelty that is suffocating the life out of our democracy, the hope out of our democracy, the truth. We have reached a tipping point here, a real one. When you got 75% of all the income being made by the top 10%, when literally the top 1% makes 20% of all the income, when you have literally from the 2009 recovery, 95% of all the economic gains has gone to the top 1%, 2/3 of folks are living paycheck to paycheck, and all we get is an assault on working and middle class folk because the folks we keep sending to Congress are bought and paid for by big business. John Fazio is one of the problems. He's of that. He's a career politician. Somebody who's been an operator from day one, taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Mercer family, taking over $800,000 from corporate PACs. You're looking at someone up here who will not take a dime from a corporate PAC. You're looking at somebody up here who comes from a working family. You're looking at upstate New York right here. I grew up in Schenectady, born and raised. My parents still in Schenectady with my brother and my little niece, along with my wife, who also was born in Woodstock. Parents, small business owners, right here in upstate New York. We are of this place. And this place instilled in us the values that we need to restore. Integrity, decency, responsibility, love, respect, empathy, compassion, service, equality for everybody. That's who we are. Salt to the earth folk. Hard days work, honest days pay. No cheating, no cutting the line. No handouts, but a hand up could be nice. Don't push us in the cracks. That's what's happening. A lot of folks being pushed in the cracks for nothing but greed. We used to talk about stakeholders in corporate America. Not just the shareholders, the stakeholders. The consumers, the employers, the employees, the public in general. All of us have a stake in how we conduct business in America, not just the bottom line for shareholders at our future's expense. And I'm here to fight with you. I'm here to fight with you to change this, to get back to fighting for working folks, to get back to good, responsible, thoughtful government. We have a real opportunity for change here. Now, I ran, as I said, a year and a half against some really high-quality individuals. Brian was one of them, and it took a lot of work to figure out how to distinguish myself from them. A lot of work. I do not have that problem with Mr. Fazzo. And before I conclude, because I can go on and on, but before I conclude, I want to tell you what I'm about. Not just what we're trying to get away from, but what we're trying to run to. Because you got to run to something. You just can't run from or away from the bad, but you got to run to the good. You got to run to the vision, what you see up ahead. Let me tell you what I see. I see us no longer being the only developed country in the world without some form of universal health care. I see that. I see making sure that Medicare actually has the power to negotiate with Big Pharma. How about that? Wouldn't that be nice? I see making sure that we actually spend more on the Department of Education enabling our public schools than we do propping up corporate America, and we do to the tune of almost double. We spend $100 billion a year propping up corporate America than we do on our Department of Education. Universal pre-K, rethinking our curriculum, trade schools, vocational schools, apprenticeship programs, getting back to the nuts and bolts of preparing our young people for the future. Real investment. John Fazio will tell you the government has no role in K-12 education. How does that even make sense? It doesn't. Let's talk about investing in our roads and rail and broadband access and cell service so we can incentivize economic investment. Trump ran on $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Well, where's that $1 trillion? They gave it away. Let's take it back. And let's invest in our future. Let's shift away from fossil fuel to renewable energy and create real economic growth and protect our air and our water. And have real skills training programs embedded in actual energy efficiency technology, which, by the way, the rest of the world is lapping us right now because we're not doing that work. Real tax reform that puts money in the pockets of working and middle-class folks so they can spend it to small business owners who then can actually pay good wages. They're getting more and more money. You grow the economy from the ground up and stop hoping that it somehow will trickle down from above when it never does. Basic concepts here: healthcare, jobs, education, opportunity. Enough with the nonsense. Now, we got a lot of energy building all across this district. A lot of it. I'm seeing it. I got a front row seat every single place I go. I see it. From Greene County, out to Schoharie to Delaware, Broome, it doesn't matter. People are showing up. Not just Democrats either. Republicans, independents, looking for change, looking for truth, looking for authenticity, looking for realness. Because it lives in us all. We know it when we hear it and when we see it. So I encourage you guys, you men and women in this room, young people, dig deep. Dig real deep. Because we have a chance here to make some history and do right by us and do right by our children. And you got somebody up here in front of you that's going to work his butt off from now through the election. And I only ask that you work with me. And if we all buy in, really buy in, and work our butts off, I can guarantee you this: we're going to win. We're going to win. So thank you. Thank you. I love you.